Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Authenticity Hour, episode 9. Thank you so much for coming on, Daniel. Daniel Fitzhenry is on the show today, leader of Southampton City Council, a badass businessman, and he's about to show us a hell of a lot in this episode. We cover a ton of stuff from authentic leadership to Southampton City Council's bid for culture. So, without further ado, I'll let the show begin. How are you feeling?
Good. It's been a good day. I opened an event this morning, at
Was that renewable energy?
Yeah. Well, it was the Planet Mark Net Carbon Zero bus tour. So doing it around the UK, came to Southampton. It was one of the only places in the south of England they were coming to. And welcomed them to Mars this morning, talking about carbon stories and our path to 2050.
Love that.
And how we, create an environment of success to deliver the net carbon zero objectives ahead of COP26.
Yes, because we have big objectives involved in Southampton. I know this from an eco point of view. So what is the end goal for 2050? Just a reminder.
No. So, I mean, the government has set out the directive that we want to be as a country, and of course that then feeds into international politics and international agreements of net carbon zero by 2050.
Yeah.
And we're all a bit like any new objective. We're 29 years out from 2050, all going, what does that look like, and how do we get there, and how do we measure it, and all of these sorts of things. But it is the greatest opportunity for job creation, wealth creation, changing the way that we do things, and for what we're about to talk about, people being themselves.
Yes.
They're out listening now, and in this city, and some people won't have been maybe born yet, are the pioneers that will deliver the technology and the ideas and the solutions to solve the challenges that we have right now. Like, learning how to use IGTV live for the first time.
You just got to go through these processes. And so there's a lot of innovation, especially in this city, for new green initiatives and stuff. I've seen quite a lot of them. And I love to see them pop up, and that's why initiatives like Innovate UK and things and lots of grant funding is really important for that, because being surrounded by startups all the time is just amazing to see how many of them are out to benefit the world. And I think mission-led businesses are now more prevalent than ever before. And I think it's a nice change has come about. And I'll bring TikTok into this, because I always do. It's such a leader of authenticity that I think anyone who does have these initiatives, so Planet Mark, if it's not on TikTok already, please get on it, because it will change the way you look at things and how people look at you. So in terms of pushing those initiatives, I love that mission-led businesses are more prevalent than they used to be. Do you think there's any other causes for that?
Well, I think the world evolves, doesn't it? COVID has taught us that a whole host of things. One, tech is evolving at a pace. And of course, evolution gets quicker and quicker and quicker, and that by dimensions creates things that you couldn't have seen before. But I think COVID has taught us that opportunity is there. We're evolving at a quick pace. The business world is need to change. I've spent my life learning, which is a posh way of saying failing.
Failing upward.
Failing forward on mission-led objectives.
Yes.
Businesses I've set up, things I've tried to do have been very mission-led. Naturally, the most successful mission-led, I say successful to date, mission-led thing that I'm probably doing in terms of how I feel it's going and moving forward is what I'm doing now. And, mission, having a sense of purpose that is greater than profit is what drives entrepreneurs.
It does. True entrepreneurs through and through. They're just driven by something. It's like a little flame that can't be extinguished.
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't matter what you do to them or the groups of people they're working with. If that flame is what they think it is, which it generally is, it just gets stronger and stronger.
It does.
And so the resilience builds, the innovation builds, the focus builds, the ideas, the belief. And it's this classic of going, the game is already won. We're just humouring ourselves with the process.
Yeah,
that's how they think.
Yeah, and I think that brings a rise in authentic leadership, because when you're learning these things, is you've got this fire and you've got this energy and determination. Sometimes you will have your skill sets from your past, but you have to learn so many new things. The classic analogy, wearing a bunch of hats. So I think this is why I put this book in the middle, Self-Made, just as a little reference to what we're talking about today. But authentic leadership comes out in, one, your style of doing things, and two, your path to learning. Yeah. Because I think sometimes, especially when leaders are put on the spot, the expectation for perfection can sometimes be a lot, especially for beginner entrepreneurs. Yeah. So what have you found is kind of some good leadership tactics, if you will, for when you're starting and you actually don't have that much experience in leading something just yet? You just know you're the guy that has to make the call or go out.
Yeah. So I think the key thing, I mean, this term authentic leadership, in essence, it's leadership of self. So, the more you can lead yourself, and that's a journey.
Yeah, big old journey. Don't expect to get it right immediately.
No, and you'll never get it right. And you're right that, the more you can say, this is my sort of vision of where I want to go, and start walking towards it.
Yes.
Believing that you can, taking leaps of faith, which are just little steps, and moving towards it, the more it becomes real.
Yes.
We create that we seek, or we become what we think about all day long.
Always.
And that's been the science for thousands of years. We're just being able to quantify it much more now in modern theory. But ultimately, the key thing about authentic leadership is just believing that each one of us has a purpose.
Yes.
So, and in each one of us having a purpose, when we're doing something, we're not doing it because it's kind of like feels all right, or it might be. You're doing it because this is why you're here.
Yes.
Yeah. That's why you are on this thing that we call the earth, and you're doing the things you are because you believe that you're not actually the best person at it, but actually you believe that's what you're here to do.
Yeah.
And thus, by doing that, you doing it means other people are doing it, and they're fulfilling their mission, and everyone together is floating around working collectively.
Yeah, and I tell you what, it comes out in multiple different ways. I mean, even when I started this podcast, we're only on episode 9, but I didn't realise how much the word had gotten around about this already. There's people that know about that I had no idea knew. And although I'm supposed to be a marketer and something else, I'm still like, can't believe people have heard us talk. And I think it's a lot about putting out those clips, and this is why this show is basically wholly unedited. It's just just let it be.
Go with the flow.
Because you will get better over time. It's almost like a reflection of how we tend to do things internally. And when you touch on like mission-led stuff, this is the reason in Shogun Social that we put everyone's long-term goals that are outside of work or career-related, we put them on the whiteboard for everyone to see. So one of our staff, Tiana's amazing content exec, she wants to work in London in like 4 years on bigger projects. I want to own a co-working space one day that specialises in content. James wants to be a freelance video expert. So there's all these things that together, and having those collective individual missions prioritised, plus the one we are all going for in the company, I think is a very nice dynamic. I mean, for anyone who's an anime fan, there's an anime called One Piece that essentially is just pirates and stuff. Yeah. But their whole thing is they each have an individual goal, but they're all helping.
Correct.
The main person's goal, and I just like that as a sentiment.
Yeah.
Although it's technically basing a business principle off of a cartoon, for somewhat of a better term, it's what drives me, and it's quite inspiring actually. Oh,
absolutely. And the more everybody works for their own agendas,
yes.
Right? There's nothing wrong with that. What the challenge is aligning your agenda to their agenda. So
yes.
Everybody gets up every day, subconsciously or consciously, to fulfill their own sense of purpose and their own needs, whether that's financial or emotional or behavioural or whatever else. So the more we can get people rowing in the same direction, of course, what we do is we remove the resistance, which is energy and time and consuming. And we then begin to go, if we all start moving in this direction, we compound the success results up.
Yes.
So we're not adding 1 and 1 to make 2, we're adding 1 and 1 to make 10.
Yes.
And then we're adding in, if we look at this on a citywide level, of course, we're then going to people that are moving in a direction. You want to grow and expand, and someone else wants to grow and expand, and then they want to innovate, and they've got a problem, and you've got a solution, and then wow, look what we can do as a city to unlock the potential.
Yeah.
Because unlocking potential, we're actually talking to ourselves. Every day you are unlocking you.
Yes.
It's an artwork. It's an art form. You're crafting. You're designing it. So. You're absolutely right. And sometimes it breaks down, or relationships don't work. Generally because they're not aligned on expectations. But
yes.
Great failures in my life and great leadership failures of people have taught me lots of great things.
Yeah.
And I think what I really believe is that we're all here for a purpose. You bring those purposes together, you bring the best out in people, you create a powerful ecosystem, and the results are phenomenal.
Yeah,
there is no competition to that.
Yes, and I like that aspect, and I think every action, whether we perceive it as positive or negative, is like just another brushstroke on our final painting that will be a masterpiece. You know, to use a very overblown analogy. But yeah, it's really nice. And let's touch on a little bit. So, how did you get your start in business? Because that's like the question I ask everyone. I'm obsessed with entrepreneurial journeys from start to finish. So tell me, what was at least the first business venture that ignited that flame?
So I was very lucky. I lived with my grandparents when I was sort of 9, 10, 11, and they ran a fruit and veg market stall. So at a very young age, I was there washing lemons, serving customers,
Love it.
Understanding how you buy something for X price and sell it for Y, and margin, and long days, you know. But I loved it. It was seeing people, and it was being out, and trucks and movement and things and food, you know, great colours and places of the world. So I was very lucky in that sense. I had exposure to that very young.
Yes.
And then I invested money very young as a result, because I went to work and created my own money and stuff.
Love that.
But my first proper business that I started was age 19 in renewable energy. So it was selling solar panels. A friend of mine, I was at uni, I couldn't handle the academic learning styles, wasn't for me, left, and a mate of mine said, look, I want to start this business. We knew nothing about it. I mean, it's a textbook of everything you shouldn't do.
The best entrepreneurial journeys, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was textbook of everything you shouldn't do, and in every way you shouldn't do it, in terms of just planning, you know. And so for about 3 or 4 years I was running this renewable energy, selling solar thermal products to residential properties. Recession came, couldn't carry on, so I sort of managed an exit, and then that was my first business that I created. But I'd been involved in my family then business for a lot of time and taken a more active role. And there's something about hospitality, retail, and people, and food, that even now I'm not involved in those areas, I still have a sort of leaning to. In fact, every day in some way, shape or form, there is a conversation about some food related something somewhere with someone who goes, I know you still love it, Dan, so we'll talk to you about it.
Yeah, it's always going to be part of you.
It is always
take that part out.
No.
And I think a lot of people know that about you, actually, just the fact that you do genuinely walk everywhere and make time for everyone. Because I'm just someone you randomly met here at a co-working space, technically, if we're going to take anything else out of it. And the fact that we're here talking just goes to show that it's great that you actually make time for everyone. And you, because people often disassociate people in politics as well. They'll just see your title and then there's a cognitive thing there, and they take the person out of it. Whereas you generally put the people back into things, and people can see that in the micro videos you do while you're traveling around. I think people really appreciate that outreach to them, because it is kind of virtually extending a hand. I really like that aspect. It's really cool.
Well, I've been lucky to learn from some really good people, and I've been elected for 13 years. I've walked the territory, and I've going back to this authentic leadership piece.
Yeah.
You know, when I first started in the leadership role that I'm in now, sort of 3.5 months ago, I was quite frightened about doing things the way I'm doing it, because not many people had, but that's not the reason why. It was just like there was a convention a bit. And then I realised there wasn't a convention. The convention was in my head.
Yes. And,
you know, this was the moment to do things the way I think they should be done. But everything is about time and place as well. Yes. You know, I'm very lucky that the technology is the way it is. We can have these sorts of things in a way that we can. So, it is great to be out seeing people. And of course, my job in my mind is to bring this city behind a vision of itself and motivate and inspire people to take action. Yeah. You know, if we just rely on the council to do everything, or public bodies to, we're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. It needs to be a collective effort.
It does.
A lot of people lose sight of the collective effort and big picture for their own city. And it's because you have your own life, you get wrapped up in it, and then you realise that the place I'm in could benefit from an initiative or idea I have. People often don't realise that they have that kind of power. And it's crazy to think that. And that brings me on to questions about the bid for culture for 2025. What is actually entailing in that? So this is me being the filter for everyone else who looked at it, seen the stuff and gone, what is that exactly?
Yeah. So our City of Culture bid is, City of Culture, the current City of Culture in the UK is Coventry. Okay. And it was City of Culture 2020, but because of COVID got delayed. So they're running City of Culture now. And what it's really about is a competition, to a city that is an aspiring cultural place. Yes. That has a story to tell. And Coventry had it, and Hull had it, and London Derry had it. And so it's your less usual cultural places.
Yes.
For us, so we're bidding. The long list of people at the moment is about 20 city/regions in the UK applying. We'll know within the next 6 weeks or so whether we're into the shorter list of that, and then we'll know whether we've won 2024, 2025 for the year of 25 in May 22.
Gotcha.
But a lot of what we've had to do, of course, is get together all the things that are going on. But of course, it is a competition. So one of the things that's been interesting is obviously I've come at it from a how do the city get more involved, and we've done a lot of consultation and a lot of work with people.
Yeah.
But of course, our audience is the people and the judging panel, because we're running in a competition. So it hasn't been the big. There's been a lot going on, but it hasn't been like Southampton's won because we haven't won yet. We've got to get together our bid process. There's been a lot of, I mean, the work the team have done and the coming together of the organisations to get there has been phenomenal.
The visuals, the branding, everything, just from an outside perspective, looks phenomenal.
Yeah.
So
but this is an opportunity to see our city through. Who are we?
Yes.
Where have we come from and where are we going? And one of the challenges in 20th century Britain, 20th century Southampton, was, of course, during the war, the city was significantly affected, flattened heavily.
That's what we get for making good Spitfires.
That's what we get for making great Spitfires and making them then in the shadow factories all over the city rather than just in an obvious one.
Yes.
The net result of that is obviously we've grown up really quickly, stuff been going on all over the place. There never really has been the moment for people to go, so who are we? You hear people go, Southampton's great, but it's a bit disjointed, or it never quite achieves its potential, or nothing's connected. And a lot of that comes from, we had a core of a city, and then we had to build a load more of that city very quickly post-war. So what this is about is introducing, my family are a Southampton-based family, not university educated, not college university educated, sort of working class background. My mum was the first one to get a degree later in life. I think almost, I can't remember, but the point being is culture to me as a child or as a young teenager, like, although I was involved with politics, I was like, well, that's not something we do because we haven't got the time. We've got to go to work and earn some money and pay the bills. And there are loads of people, this is just my story, there's loads of people that story. What the City of Culture bit is about going, do you know what, Southampton's got amazing walls. We've got vaults that nobody knows about. We've got heritage of the Spitfire, of the Stolen Sky Museum, of all of these different things going on in our city. The fact that the flying boats came here, and that's where the word airport came from.
Interesting.
And the cruise ships, the Titanic, Sea City, the maritime history, but also the connection of the Solent to all of that. So our partner areas are significant during the war, D-Day, and then the fact we were a Roman port, we were a medieval port. A lot of battles with the French went on in the medieval periods. So there's a lot of customs and activity that have gone on for years, but more importantly, our city is. A lot of people don't feel connected to the water, and the water is the reason this city, with its double tide, one of the only places in the world, not many places have a double tide, has flourished. But we've disconnected, and that's fine. Our job now is to reconnect, and culture is a lens for us to do that and understand people and all the different people from different backgrounds that have come to our city over the years, but also then to look at the opportunities for jobs, wealth, partnership opportunities, the economy, and really going, Southampton is a phenomenal place, and we're going to put ourselves on that global map, and we're not going to stop until we are much more known and open many more doors than we do now.
It's so true. And actually, as someone who's lived in Southampton their whole life as well, I've always had this sense of people do, like, we don't have as strong as an identity as like a Brighton or someone else. And I've always been like, why? We have all the same pieces to the puzzle, and it's because just those, obviously the historical backdrop I was missing, and all the little things. Some of the things I didn't know about the vaults until you told me now. There's so much stuff that I feel like a lot of Southampton residents really don't know. And that's an incredible part of it. And actually, it filled me with a little bit of a sense of pride, actually, because we have so much to offer.
We do,
and we still do a lot, and I feel like we deserve our place in that a bit more. And that's why I think I've only noticed it since starting a business, about how different we feel compared to other areas. You can see it in startup hotspots around the UK, and I'm like, we have all the pieces. What's missing? Unified vision for culture.
Unified. I can feel myself getting excited now. The unification of this city's vision is what's missing. And being very honest with you, there are many of my colleagues and many people who could do a much better job than me if the dynamics change. But
Yeah.
one thing I learnt to be pretty good at and have spent my life mastering is big picture vision. My job is to bring this city behind a vision of itself, because this is the moment to do it.
Yeah.
Now, I will not be around forever, and there'll be people that will be able to do a much better job, and there are people that can do a much better job than I, but there are moments and windows when you meet a client, for example, and you go, I could really do some good stuff for this client. You get excited about it. They might not see it, but you get excited about it. That's how I feel about this city. I know that of all the things that I've not managed to get right in life, the learning lessons have brought me to a stage where I go, I know I can do, and that's why I spend my time meeting people, because it is the people in this city and people that want to help the city and live around the city that all the components, all the value to allow us to unlock what we've never managed to lock. And that's not me doing that.
Yeah.
That's me just sort of shepherding people a little bit in the right direction and giving a sense of belief that we can do it.
Absolutely. And you know, all it took was one conversation for me to fully understand what the vision is. And I feel like just more of those that can happen here, there and everywhere would be absolutely astounding, because that you just get excited about it. It's in our client meeting, for instance, my main job isn't to sell them anything, it's to get them excited about their own brand again.
Yes.
And go, do you realise what you're sat on here?
Yeah.
And then they go, oh my God, we are. And it's the exact same thing. So it's a really, really interesting principle, actually. How did you first get into local politics? Just as a question there, because as someone who's never had any exposure to it, what's the process? Is there like a form of some sort?
Well, I'm here, so the criteria can't be too intense. Well, again, one of the benefits of living with my grandparents is my granddad was very politically minded. So all of my mum's side of my family, pretty much all of my family actually, were pretty much Labour supporters. So I've been on a journey of self-realisation. And I lived with them, and my granddad used to sit and watch Sunday politics, and I used to sit and watch it with him when I was 9, 10. And he would be talking about it or perhaps moaning about some things, and I remember sat there saying,
like a good old man.
I remember thinking, I'm fascinated by this, and maybe there's something let's not just talk about the philosophy and the ideas, let's go and do it.
Actually.
So I was lucky, and so I had a sort of political interest. I suppose I had an interest in doing good, put it that way. And then an opportunity that came up that I knew nothing, and this is the universe, how it works for us, came up when I was at secondary school at St George's in my last year. So I was about 15, I think, and there was a competition for Southampton to elect the first member of the youth parliament to represent the city on a national level. So it was called UK Youth Parliament, still active today, 20 years on.
Excellent. Take notes, everyone.
Yeah. And so I went to a day that the schools went to where we would elect the member of the Youth Parliament for Southampton.
Love that.
And it was over at the East Point Centre at Thornhill, the old East Point Centre. And over we went with some kids, some of the friends from school and other schools, and it was a great day out. You're at school, wasn't it? It's a chance to get out of school. And long story short, they were like, oh, you should stand for this today, Dan, because we're going to do the voting. This was my school period, so I was all right. Then we went round canvassing a few other people, and they were like, oh, Dan's going to stand. Anyway, cut a long story short, I won. And so I became the first member of the Youth Parliament to represent Southampton, aged 14 nearly 15 in 2001. And that then put me into this position where all the things I'm starting to do now, I was on that level. I was at these meetings. I was like, wow, I'm like 14, 15, still at school. Some of the council officers had to come to school to meet me, which was funny. And it was also funny when...
Come to the meeting room.
But it was also funny when I went back to school and they said, what were you doing yesterday? I said, I was in your boss's office. In a sort of school way, school kid way. So, I got involved very early, sort of political activity. Youth Parliament was non-political. And then I went to college after school and, do what we all do at college, discover partying and going out and doing stuff. And then I joined the Conservative Party and started delivering leaflets for the Conservative Party in 2004. And to be frank with you, people ask, how do you get involved in local politics or politics generally? Have an interest in the area, turn up, deliver leaflets, knock doors, speak to people, get on with people, and the rest will take care of itself. you don't need, from your business, you'll have all these preconceptions about what do I need to start a business? What do I need to do this?
Yes.
You know what? Find someone who's got a problem and find a solution to that one person's problem.
Yes.
And then go from there. And that's all I've been basically doing in my political role. And so, I got elected 4 years later in 2008. And then I've worked my way up all the different roles in the council to this role this May.
Seen every stage. Love it.
Yeah.
And there's something within that is so applicable to other areas, and it's putting yourself in a position to succeed, or at least be exposed to things that can benefit you. I feel like that's what a lot of entrepreneurial and the inspirational people and hustlers, should we say, online, that essentially just go somewhere posh. Let's say go down to Ocean Village, for lack of a better place for me to think of. Just get yourself in a coffee shop nearby and put yourself in the mindset of where everything is around you.
Yeah.
Because from my perspective, obviously I grew up in Woolston, so I didn't have much. But I never met a business owner until I was 23. So for me, I was like, I needed to put myself into places where I can think big picture and vision, because otherwise you get mentally pigeonholed into what you know, because you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And that is the same thing with getting into politics or anything like that. Just put yourself in the position, and actually realise that there's a bigger vision in politics. I think especially on the younger side, like politics can be boring depending on how you've been exposed to it. If it's just question time, let's say, and you have no idea what's going on, that the will flip to the switch, and then that's
boom,
it. Then
done.
Never interact with it again. But actually, it's how you can digest that. And thinking like, there is actually power here, there's ideas, and I have potential to push that out. And so many people don't realise that they have that ability to do so.
Correct.
But really it's about, I think the best technique to do it is, like you said, just starting off delivering leaflets, building micro momentum. Yeah. Because a lot of people get those preconceptions in front of them, the walls, they put them all up and they go, no way I can climb those. Yeah. Whereas all they need to do is chip away a little brick and start from there. Yeah. And it's a longer process, but actually micro momentum then builds confidence. Yeah. And in confidence comes results. Yep. And it couldn't be more true in basically every area. Correct. And you listen to any entrepreneurial story and it essentially starts in some way of building micro momentum. Yeah. So for all those that have plans and just haven't actioned them, start with the smallest possible thing you can imagine. Yep. Buying your website URL, looking into something, putting together a tiny business plan, even if it's on one page, that builds the tiny micro momentum you need, even if it's going to a local meeting of some kind. Yep. To really figure out what's going on in your own city. Because if you want to figure out what's going on next door, I feel like we all should. Yep. Because it's not like in any other period of history that you'd be uninterested about what's going to happen to you where you're settled down. And I feel like now, because of this media overexposure for everything, sometimes our mind's in another country rather than right in here, thinking about what could happen, what bus route's going to change, something like can affect your life. Yep. So get involved. It's absolutely right there for you. It is, and you're talking there, James. The key, the art of being present, was one of the things that I couldn't get right in business. You've got to get yourself. This is leadership of self, leadership of people, leadership of company. Yeah. In this case, my case, leadership of a city. Yeah. And every day, the challenges that I face on a city level or on a business level, if I'm doing business stuff or you're doing business stuff, are a reflection of the challenges we face on a personal level. Yeah. The world is a mirror. The outside world is a mirror. It's just an opinion and a view. So what the key bit is to work harder on yourself than you work on anything else. And if you can get on with people and you can understand people and you can find commonality, everything else is going to work itself out. But you're right. Get yourself in. If you're out there right now, guys and girls, looking at starting a business and not sure what to do, just start. Just find someone you think you can find some value for, or go and speak to enough people that are successful, because everybody starts somewhere. And I've done 4 or 5 startups, so not that many, but enough to get a bit of a feel. And everybody starts somewhere. We all feel the same way, even however many times you've done it. Yeah, which is fascinating because you already know what it's just different. That's good to know.
No, it doesn't change. It just, the dynamics change. So get out there, find some people, talk to someone, see how you can create some value. Yeah, and get around people that are doing what you're doing. And the other real powerful tool that I think we have available now that I know 20 years ago, 20 years is an overstatement, 15, 16, 17 years ago when I was starting business, is partnership-driven work now is much more powerful. Yes. You do not need to be good at you only need to be good at the one thing. And when you start, you're going to be better at 5 or 6 because you've got to hone your skill set. Yes. But find people that can do the other stuff. And even if they're people in your industry, how can you add value for them? excuse me, is the question you want to ask. How can I create value for you?
Yeah.
And Zig Ziglar had this great saying, didn't he? You know, if you can have everything you want if you give everyone else what they want.
Yeah.
That's it.
It really is, and so much of business is done, and I've only just learned this. A year and 2 months old is the business.
Cool.
And for the life of me, I never would have thought this was the case, but so much of business happens depending on how likable you are.
Yeah.
And just what type of person you are.
Yeah.
You would be so surprised, for those who don't have businesses yet, just on if you can make a good connection. That one conversation in a coffee shop can change your life.
Absolutely. One conversation.
Yeah.
One door. Is all
it takes.
you need.
Yeah.
All you need.
Open your first,
Yeah.
and the rest will open with effort, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an incredible phenomenon. I think even normal people, especially if you have a startup idea that hasn't come to fruition yet, go to networking sessions anyway, because they're either inexpensive or they're free. Oftentimes, if you pure networking things, Hampshire Chamber of Commerce, Only Network, all kind of really, really good ones. And the amount of things you can learn, people you can see, inspiration you can take, and being around individuals who are doing something provokes action at all times. Because sometimes it can be really intimidating to when you have an idea and you're like, I'm not ready to present my idea to the world, because people hold it in and go, if someone hears about my little business, and then people get a bit passive aggressive because they don't want you to succeed sometimes, and it's a bit like, no, you have to fight through that. Truly, it can be a weird sensation to do, but once you do it, you're like, oh, okay. This is what happens. This is how you. And networking is a skill in itself. And I think emotional intelligence. We talked about this on the second episode of the podcast. But emotional intelligence sometimes serves you more than classic intelligence ever will.
Yes. Especially
in the world of business, because as we know from all top entrepreneurs, most of them don't really have degrees, to be honest, from all the most famous ones, and you don't need them either, to be completely honest with you. Sometimes I chatted to a guy today who went the apprenticeship route and is like literally much younger than me and in a very similar position in a company. And it's like, because he went the apprenticeship route, he went experience based, he went people first, and it changed the trajectory of his life. So don't poo-poo that either, because sometimes it's traditional methodologies that can hold you back.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, it goes back to this: every one of us is here for a reason. So this is an intentional universe, in my opinion. Every one of us has a reason to be here, which means we have value to add.
Yes.
You know, and we're using 10 to 15% of our brain capacity. We can solve great challenges. We're not, you know, and as we're psychologically and as the world is evolving, we begin to solve more of them. But actually, you know, if you have an idea in your mind, when we see something in our mind and then we can feel it, it is already real.
Yes.
We're filling in the gaps. And if you're out there today listening, thinking, I want to start this, I'm not sure, just start, find someone. You're going to go through the pieces around, who's going to like this, and the fear of success is much more powerful than the fear of failure.
Yeah. Because there's a massive what if behind success.
Yeah, exactly. And equally, once you've had a relative level of it, to lose it, to then come back, is like, well, you'll start comparing yourself. It's like being a child and then going to being an adult and then going back to child again. You still think everyone expects you to be the adult.
Yeah.
Well, they don't. They just know that you're evolving. You know. So it's fascinating, but ultimately, every one of us is here for a purpose. We've all got value to add, and the key to creating the greatest value is being as authentic and as personable as you are.
Yes.
You know, and just learning every day to declutter that monkey that's screaming on your back.
Yes.
And there are tools in meditation and mindset and calming and well-being to do that.
Yes.
And those tools that I've deployed have changed my life and my approach to all of this.
Yeah, as you said earlier, it's all about the work you do internally first.
Correct.
It then spills over outwardly. There's a really good book. For the life of me, I can't remember who wrote it now, but it's called The Chimp Paradox.
Yes.
And that is really good at compartmentalising when you realise some behaviour is happening. So when that immediate knee-jerk response says, you can't do that, that's probably your chimp talking out of fear, for lack of a better term. The whole book's quite kind of fun.
It's a fascinating book.
Yeah, it's really
That
good.
book I read as I was beginning to make some serious decisions, aged sort of 29, 30, having built a load of stuff and gone, this isn't right for me. And that book, it opened a new paradigm, and that's what all this is about. Truly,
and it's a really, really good book. I'll put the link in the description to in the podcast, but it was very good. There's plenty of books like it as well, and even little things like I used to listen to is it Darren? It's not Darren Brown. Paul McKenna.
Yeah.
I can make you confident. You should listen to that every night.
Yeah.
Sometimes it does work, genuinely. Affirmations, meditation, self-improvement books. Sometimes you fall down the rabbit hole doing loads of them, and sometimes it's not necessary, but because actually you can procrastinate with self-improvement when you have an idea to action. But genuinely, it's all about self-improvement and also exposure. Like I said earlier, I mean, one of the things I'd love to do in future is to figure out how we can have more initiatives to expose more kids in Hampshire to business owners and the potentials of startups. Because one thing I know now from the way the economy is that everyone should have a side hustle, or at least the attempt to, and obviously have their own agenda in mind and figure out what are those goals, because it takes a long time to figure out what you really want to do. Sometimes people struggle for years to find that flame, and it could be in all types of areas, but I think one is a preconception of there's only one flame out there for you. There's only one thing, and then you're like, I haven't found that thing yet. You have to just keep testing things till it works. But also, just when you have never seen it, it feels impossible. So I'd love to figure out if there's a way for more of that exposure to happen and teach people more independent skills so they can do freelancing on the side as well as a job, as long as contracts provide. So it's that kind of thing I'd love to figure out. I mean, are there any initiatives in mind that we've done before that are great examples? And if not, perfect.
I think they're not directly what in the way that you're saying. I mean, obviously as a city we do a lot of work with the Chamber of Commerce and the Skills Agenda and the Business Improvement District. I'm very keen on us as also doing a piece in the next few months around Startup Southampton. The number of people that started up like yourselves in the last 18 months or 24 months just pre the pandemic and survived and thrived. Because if you can survive in this environment, it's not about COVID. It's about the fact of being comfortable, being massively uncomfortable. That's what it's about. It's not what's happened to you. It's what you learn from what's happened to you.
And you never get quite used to that, even if you do thrive.
You're still looking for stability, because human nature, human condition says we crave habitual activity.
Patterns. We have them everywhere.
Absolutely. Our brain wants to be. We are lazy intuitively because our brain wants patterns and habits so that it can filter. But
work smart.
Which is fine, because then we're deploying our energy on the things that really matter. Otherwise, our subconscious program is operating, running our bodies and running everything whilst you and I are talking. It could not consciously stop and think about everything we're doing. Otherwise, nothing would happen.
And this is why I'm of the opinion that everyone needs a counsellor/therapist, because I think there's a bad connotation behind it. Like, if you need a therapist, you're broken or something. Like, having someone to help you recognise those subconscious trends. Obviously, there's the classic phrase of knowing the problem's first step to solving it. Couldn't be any more true. Is as annoying as it is sometimes when you're in a situation where I just want one solution to this problem. Like, no, the problem is probably internal first, and then external finishes second. So
absolutely,
I'm always of that opinion that everyone needs someone to talk to in some capacity, because it unlocks so many things, and just having someone you're comfortable enough to also do that around. Also unlocks many doors as well, because I think a lot of us, especially on the male side, we keep a lot in. There's a lot we don't say, there's a lot we feel we can't, societal, trained into us subconsciously, all that kind of stuff, and that needs to be far more out there in terms of men's mental health and everything like that, and also female mental health as well. I know everyone else actually.
Absolutely. We are the world, and we're out of balance. We know why we're on the route to carbon zero by 2050, because we are out of carbon balance. We're producing too much of it. But that's a habit that's carried on and carried on and carried on. We've got to habitualise it and change it. No different when you're out of balance. We're designed to be yin and yang, feminine and male energy. Obviously, as guys, we've probably got more male energy, but we're a balance. And it's about utilising those energies and understandings. Because lots of people, and I was a nightmare at this. I was overwhelmed by it, really. We all think about, in business, chasing goals and chasing this and chasing that. The ability to understand, to be empathetic, to listen, to stop, to reflect is as much as powerful as action and
leads, monetary goals,
all that sort of stuff. And you know what? When you're in balance, having not been hugely in balance in previously, and more in balance now, it's just a total different world.
You can tell when you're in that flow state, and you'll find it, and there's a sweet spot you'll hit.
There is.
and it's finding that is difficult. It's different for everyone. Everyone has a different methodology to get there.
Yeah.
Some people lean naturally into it. This is why we have people that are much more inclined to do certain types of jobs.
Yeah.
They'll get into flow states in different ways.
Correct.
But sometimes people put themselves in a cookie cutter mold.
Yeah.
And this is where a lot of the mental health stuff comes back in, because it's the societal precognition, like I'm not fitting into this box, therefore I am weird, I am broken somehow. And it's absolutely not the case.
I can tell you honestly on that point, I've spent most of my life outside of the box, and most of my life until I managed to understand acceptance, understanding and acknowledgement, stage one, thinking, where do I fit in all of this? I must condition myself back to being normal.
Yes.
And the greatest realization, and you see this in all the majorly successful people, is the moment they went, no, my beauty is in my being me.
Yes.
I'm not going to condition myself back in the box. Now, there are societal norms that we've got to abide by, and nobody's ever contesting that we shouldn't. But actually, it's about being at flow in your own character.
Yes.
And the more you're at flow in your own character, the more you want to help other people be in flow in their character.
Yes.
Because it's just the natural state.
Yeah.
So we're gifted to be able to have these conversations and understand this now, and this is where I think we have evolved.
Much.
As a business world and as a political world, because even 2 years ago, it was very different. The pandemic has changed things.
Yes, massively. I think some things for the better.
Yeah.
It caused a lot of horrible damage, but mentally speaking, I think it's shown us all that, one, there are more important things in life than sometimes whatever work's going on. There are so many things we have internally, because all of us were inside and really had to self-reflect at some point. Because we're all stuck there, and then had a quiet moment and went, oh, okay.
What's all this about?
A lot going up over here.
Yeah.
Because often a lot of us keep ourselves busy on purpose to avoid addressing it.
Yes.
But actually, that's what I like about how social media is changing, actually. It's gone much more into a method of, like, we're sick of being social media perfect. We're done with it. So we're just going to be ourselves now. And actually, I think it's led to a lot of really great original comedy because of it, especially on the TikTok side. That it's very relatable.
Yeah.
But it's just good to see people's creativity is coming out. So many more people with side hustles. I mean, my sister, she's 17. She's been working with us ever since we started the business. She's been helping me out, and she's been an absolute godsend. And now she just came to me the other day and was like, James, I want to start my freelance business. And she's just starting college on Monday, Southampton City College. And I'm like, yes, I love it.
Good.
Because I know she has the skills to do it. And she was always one of those people that probably wouldn't have given herself mental permission if it wasn't for that micro momentum she's built up over time. So especially anyone out there around like 16, 17, school age, get yourself near someone who's doing something like this.
Correct. Absolutely.
The one thing that spoiled the world of work for me was when I did an internship at a startup with two entrepreneurs that were probably only a couple of years older than me. I was like, well, if you guys can do it, now I have to do it. I'm not just going to let you get away with this. So it's almost like, I think the analogy is like, hang around sharks, you become a shark yourself. Although that's quite an aggressive way of doing the analogy, but it's so true. Expose yourself, give yourself permission to succeed.
Correct. Well, there's Tony Robbins, who's considered the world's
what a legend,
best coach, I suppose. His mentor was a guy called Jim Rohn, and I listen to a lot of Jim Rohn stuff. I like his stuff. Obviously he's not with the world anymore, bless him, but and one of his great sayings is, you are the average of the 5 people you spend your time around. So if you want to know, and that, of course, we've all got people we spend our time around. We're not doing it just intentionally, but if you really want to grow and learn, shove yourself in a room where you are around people that are streets ahead of you, and you're only going to do one thing, which is learn from them.
Yes.
As long as you've got to have alignment and purpose and vision and values to work with. Yes. You can pick, if you've got that, you can pick the rest of the stuff up. And in my advisory business life outside of political life, the one thing that the 3 things I sort of try and bring to the table is firstly is the belief. Because actually, what this city, if you drill this city down and ask it why it hasn't got where it's got or should have got, stage 1 is, well, I'm not really sure. And we're all guilty.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm not really sure I believe we can. So belief, and then the know-how to do some things. Yes. And then who do we need? Who is the key question? So any problem we've got, there is a person out there that can help us solve it. Yes. And our job is to go, I got this really, I was going to use a word, but a difficult problem right now. and who do we need to help us solve it? And there's always boundaries and things, but if we go back to this city, the goodwill in this city to get stuff done, to help one another. Yeah. This is one of those places, that has a massive heart to help people. Does. And in business and in all life. And if we can utilize that and really allow people like your sister to go, you know what, I'm doing this. I'm setting up my side hustle. I don't know how it's going to go.
We're just going to try.
We're just going to try.
Yeah.
And we're going to get in the ring, and we're going to stay in the ring, and we're going to 90% of everything is keep turning up. Again, going back to how do you get involved in politics? Turn up and keep turning back.
Yes.
Turn up and keep turning up. Just keep turning up.
Yeah, will, consistency, and the will. Give yourself mental permission.
Yeah. Absolutely give yourself permission.
Yes.
You are great, and you're designed to be great, and we are all designed in the eyes of being perfect.
Yes.
Regardless of where we're at, we're perfect right now as who we are to be able to do the things. We can start with what we've got.
Yes. And it has to be you.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you don't realise how many problems you can solve. Just to bring TikTok back into it again, there's an amazing series I follow called Networking with Millionaires. And it's just her experiences from networking with people with high net worth for many, many years. And this is when she always tells stories of early on when she was just fresh out of university. Nothing to her name, essentially, apart from the degree. And she said, just go with the mentality of like, how many problems can I solve in this room?
Yeah.
I don't care how much money you will make.
Yeah.
I know there's some perspective I can add.
Yeah.
Or some task I can do.
That's it.
Because there is always something you can solve in a room. So this is why I said get yourself into networking sessions anyway, because they're free or inexpensive.
Yep.
So if you have drive, put yourself there.
Yep.
Because that's an environment that's it's a first easy step to putting yourself out there. Because a lot of people say put yourself out there, and then the normal person goes, where?
Yeah. Which is a fair question, isn't it?
So networking events, coffee shops, sometimes bars.
Yeah.
But sometimes, especially in the young generations, there's especially lockdowns made us all a bit more antisocial. How do I strike up a conversation with a stranger? But networking events are that in general.
Yeah.
So people want to look for people who they don't know to talk to.
Yes.
So that is a very, very good place to start.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And like you say, now the power of, LinkedIn is phenomenally powerful, isn't it?
What a tool.
Hugely powerful and an incredible platform to be able to do things on. And the videos and the pictures and things that you post, and then people start communicating, they follow up with a call, you never know where it's going to go.
Yes.
I love my political role. I'm living my dream. My job now is to create a place where other people can live theirs. But on the alongside that, I'm doing business advisory work and bits and pieces and non-exec work and chairman work, and that's great fun. But I just love the thrill of chatting to someone new to see how I can solve these problems. And LinkedIn is brilliant for that.
It's so exciting. And
it is.
What a lot of people don't realise about LinkedIn is that people are actually really receptive to non-sales messages.
Yes.
Like the other day, I met one of my mentors. Actually, owns a very, very big agency. He's always in the campaign top 100. They started building web apps and websites and things like that. But I had no concept of how big his agency was when I met him. I just sent him a message like, looking to meet as many badass founders as possible. Will you help me on my noble quest? So you never think to see on LinkedIn. He was like, let's get it going. Let's have a call. And after I chatted to him, I was like, God, he was amazing. He was so good. How did you know so much? Look up his agency. Oh my God. And the fact that someone like that gave me the time of day goes to show the power of LinkedIn. And we often check in every now and then. I need to actually send him another message. Shout out to Gavin. So yeah, it's just it's an amazingly powerful tool.
It is.
Just go for it, because the worst anyone's going to do is ignore a message or say, I don't have the time. So if you spent 5 messages a day messaging people that you would like to be like or learn from, or even be customers on that, want them to be a customer or something, as long as you don't do it salesy, that compound that over 3 months, guarantee you some crazy stuff is going to happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you know what, the other thing that happens that's powerful, so when we're looking at an area or an ecosystem, what you're going to do now when someone sends you a message and says, in 6 months or 6 years or 60 years time, who you can see is just starting out and wants a bit of a chat, you're going to remember that conversation, right, and the power of it, and you're going to say to yourself, I want to give back now. And so the art of giving creates more. It creates, exactly. Yeah. And so the more we can give to one another, of course, we've all got our own commitments and needs.
We've got to keep the lights on.
Yeah, we've got to keep the lights on. The more we can do that, the more we create a recycling of it. And you know, when you're looking at something like a city where we are, the more we can do that, the more people's lives we're going to change. And we're going to change it not because we, you know, go deliberately trying to do it, but it just happens by natural.
Yeah. Just asking, can I help?
Exactly. You know, and the other thing, I mean, I'm terrible at asking for help. I've got better at it.
You and me both.
You know, but the more you take on, the more you get worse at asking for help, because the more you think that other people are going to form an opinion. So, you know, one of the things I've had to get over is, oh, well, you know, Christ, what will these people think if I'm asking this question I don't know the answer to?
Yes.
So now I just go, I don't know the answer. And they go, oh, yeah, here's the answer, or here's an opinion on the answer.
Yeah. This is what an amazing network can do.
Exactly.
Because there's people you can trust more to then answer those questions you may not know in the future. It takes time to build up that network.
The power of mastermind is, you know, in Think and Grow Rich, obviously, Napoleon Hill talks massively about mastermind. And you know, I would not be here were it not for all the skills of my team.
Yes.
Doesn't matter how good I am. Right now we're having this great conversation.
Yeah.
You know, the team politically and from a city council point of view are delivering stuff.
Yes. Always out there working.
Always out there.
Often on initiatives that probably deserve a little bit more credit.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and here I am, fortunate for me, being able to do this great piece, and the team are delivering. So, you know, every piece is as a component. My personal assistant and office at the council, my executive assistant and my office. You know, they're the things they're doing and putting together every day for me to be in a place.
Yeah.
And you look at any chief executive or leader of an organisation or of a country, you know, the people that are doing all the stuff in the background allow that person to be there on message.
Yeah.
And it's a system, it's a team.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of all of this. But yeah, just start and keep moving. And I promise you, there's a great saying that I also heard, which is someone said to me, you know, well, big shout out to Paul, my hypnotherapist.
Yes, Paul Hill.
Paul Hill. Yeah, you know Paul too.
Yeah, well, went to the office the other day.
Oh, did he? Well, here you go, Paul. Good to see you. You know, he said to me, how often do you think about the things that you value the most in a day, like the person you value the most, and you go, he said, so then think about the thoughts that you're having, that you think other people are thinking about all the things that you've done wrong all day long. If they're spending a minute or 5 minutes thinking about the things that are most important to them, where are you in that list? I'm like, well, I'm nowhere. He goes, so they're not thinking about you.
Yeah.
So there's a long-winded way, big shout out to Paul,
yes.
Of saying the things that you think people are thinking and the fears that you have in your mind of the fear of what others are thinking of you, they're really not for any more than about 10 seconds, and then they've moved on.
Mostly not.
Because they've got other things to do.
Yeah. You're your own worst enemy.
You are.
So many senses.
And we're all wired the same.
Yes.
We've got to unwire it.
Yeah. And it's amazing that we're all sat there having the same thoughts about ourselves.
Yes, yeah.
And then placing it on imaginary people.
Yes,
that
I'm blaming them for it. Yeah.
It's incredible. And we all follow the same patterns, but recognising the patterns, first step to solving it.
Absolutely.
And there's so much work we could all do. One of my favourite exercises ever did, my mum's a qualified therapist and counsellor, and one of the favourite exercises she ever gave to me was, whenever you get a negative thought process, I want you to flip over a blank piece of paper, I want you to draw a speech bubble, I want you to write that negative thought in there and break off and explain to me why you talk to yourself in that manner. Logical reasons, justified, like an essay.
Yeah.
Good luck trying to figure out how you can justify that behaviour to yourself.
No.
Because it is 99% of the time completely ludicrous.
Yeah.
And it allows you to really go, oh, I need to give myself a break.
Yeah.
Even if you are very determined, you're trying to keep yourself self-motivated. It's almost like you can only power yourself for so long on negative thoughts.
Correct.
Very much like a Star Wars principle. Like you can't go that long on the dark side.
No.
Until you have to bring yourself back into the light. Think positively.
Yeah, absolutely. And motivation, positive, and fear, negative, don't create results. No. So, you know, motivation will get you to the gym day 4. After day 4, you need a habit.
Yeah, habit.
Fear will get you to the gym maybe to day 4 or 5. Or if I don't do... Now, sometimes it will. But if you want, long-term results where you're happy, you've got to systemize them, habitualize them. You have rewards. And you're absolutely right. You know, if you sat an alien down and said, explain how you feel right now and why you do to the alien who had no concept of humans, they'd look at you and go, well, I'm not quite sure I really understand why you're thinking of, why would you think that way? Yeah. And who would you, you know, in that little speech bubble, who would you ever say that to about someone else? Nobody, but you say it to yourself.
Yeah.
The nature of the human mind.
Incredible.
But the great opportunity in all of that is we can flip it and create whatever we want to create.
Yes. And I hope that resonates with a lot of people. And I tell you what, we've covered a fair piece of ground in this
Great
episode.
fun.
Yeah, it was really fun. And thank you for making the time.
You're most welcome.
Much appreciated. Anyone who's following the YouTube channel, please like and subscribe. It'd be very, very awesome to have you all here and to see the podcast coming in more regularly and see more awesome guests like Daniel. If there's anyone who has any questions for me or Daniel, drop them in the comments or anything else like that. But for now, this is the end of the episode. Thank you for coming down to episode 9.
You're most welcome.
We will see you all later.
Thank you for inviting me. Good to see you all. Take care.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.